We were always clear about one thing. This wasn't casual. We were together with marriage in mind. Just not yet. The word marriage used to feel like a warm, distant light. Something to walk toward slowly, hand in hand. But lately, that light has started to feel more like a spotlight. Sharp, unblinking, and far too bright. I was raised to believe that timing matters. That commitment doesn't lose its meaning just because it waits. I thought love was like a book. You don't skip to the final chapter just because you know how it ends. You savor the middle. You let the pages turn at their own pace. My partner comes from a different background. His family is close. Traditional in their own way. To them, life isn't a book to be read, it's a series of checkpoints to be cleared. They believe you don't wait too long once you know. Waiting, in their eyes, is just wasted time. They wanted to meet me. Soon. In person. The invitation felt like a summons. They wanted to talk about marriage as if it were already scheduled, a date already circled in red on a calendar I hadn't seen yet.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
At first, it felt flattering. Like being taken seriously. But as I sat in their living room, the smell of heavy incense and old tea filling the air, that feeling shifted. The room felt crowded, not with people, but with expectations. Then the questions started. They didn't start loudly. They just leaked into the room, like a slow drip from a broken pipe. They asked about my family. Who raised me? They didn't look at my face, they looked at my history. The air around me seemed to thicken, turning into something heavy and gray. It became harder to draw a full breath. Each inhale felt like swallowing wool. They asked why my parents separated. They wanted to know the logic behind the divorce. If it was amicable. As if there is ever a clean way for a world to split in two. The room went very still. At least, it did for me. I could hear the sound of my own blood rushing in my ears. A slow, heavy thud against their polite curiosity. Thump. 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 A heart beating inside a cage of questions. They didn't sound hostile. They sounded thorough. Like they were dissecting something curious on a laboratory table. Checking the parts to make sure the machine wouldn't break down later. The questions kept coming, one after another, without pause, without mercy. Filling the space where my voice should have been. They were building a version of me in their heads, and I wasn't invited to the construction. I answered what I could. My voice sounded thin. Far away. Like it belonged to someone else standing in a different room. I smiled. Because that's what you do when you're freezing inside. You show your teeth so they think you're warm.
Efficient.
Later, when the house was quiet and the tea had gone cold, I told my partner I felt uncomfortable. I told him it felt too personal. Too soon. I told him I felt like an object being appraised, not a person being met. He looked surprised. Truly, genuinely surprised. He said this was normal. That in his culture, families open everything up front. He used the word honesty, but it felt like exposure. He said it's better to know everything early so no one has a headache later. Efficient, he called it. As if a human life could be optimized like a spreadsheet. I tried to explain that efficiency isn't the same as consent. That some information belongs to a later chapter. That intimacy is earned, not demanded. Not in the first meeting. Not like this. He said they weren't judging. They were just trying to understand. But understanding requires permission. And no one had asked for mine. The more I hesitated, the more it seemed like I was the problem. I could see the thought forming in his eyes. Why was I being guarded? What was I hiding? Why couldn't I just answer and move on? I wasn't afraid of the truth. I was afraid of the precedent. I was afraid of what would happen if I kept being the one expected to adjust. If my boundaries were just obstacles to be cleared for the sake of his family's peace. This wasn't about my parents. Or their marriage. Or where I came from. It was about the ownership of my own story. It was about how easily my discomfort was dismissed when it slowed things down. When it got in the way of their efficiency. I realized something then, looking at him. When a future is treated like a deadline, someone always gets rushed. Someone always gets stepped on to make sure the arrival is on time. And it wasn't them. It wasn't the efficient family. It was me.